Football content, eh? We love it, don't we? I mean, you must love it because, I mean, who the hell am I? And you are watching me right now, or you're about to click away. I mean, there's a statistical possibility that in fact that's exactly what you're about to do. You're about to just like click back or whatever counts back on your device. But people love football content, don't they? They love to talk about football. They like to listen to people's opinions on football. I have been doing football content, and I think doing is the right way to call it. I have been doing football content since actually, do you know what? I've been doing it since the 20th century. I really have. My first website was a Crystal Palace fan site, and I want to say that was 1999. Uh, we did me and Graham, and Martin, we did a website called The Onion Bag from 2003 to 2009 ish, which was a satire website. It was a comedy website, which at its peak was very, very popular, and pretty good as well, to be fair. Oh, I've just realised I've not turned my thingy on. There's money on one of these thingies. There we go. See, I look even better, even more gorgeous. Yeah, so we were doing that until 2009, and then we drifted into sort of like more serious-ish, sort of like football blogging, podcasting. We've been doing the Sound of Football since 2008, 2009 as well, all the way through to 2026. We embarked on a new season this last week. I do an awful lot of football content. This YouTube channel is kind of the beginning of that new chapter for me as well. And yeah, and I love doing it, and I love listening to it. I used to love listening to podcasts, football podcasts. I mean, I remember ESPN SoccerNet. I remember, do you remember, guys, something called the Beautiful Game podcast? I used to listen to Football Ramble back in the day, not stopped after a while. And of course, the Guardian one, which I stopped listening to after a while as well, because you listen for so many years. And you get a little bit bored. I think it's the same with our podcast. I remember we had like loyal listeners back in the day, and you don't hear from them anymore. And you must think that life moves on, and you probably get a little bit weary of listening to the same opinions. But these days, podcast, of course, is quite big business. It's interesting that they still call them podcasts. They really are kind of chat shows, aren't they? And so many of them now are on video, and made to a pretty high production standard. I mean, they're still, if you think about it in terms of television, they're quite low budget chat shows if they were on broadcast television, like free to air BBC kind of stuff. But actually, in this YouTube environment, they're quite cozy, they're quite well made. And I guess two of the more prominent ones are the Gary Lineker, Gary Level ones. So the rest is football, and of course Stick to Football. Both of which have recently done fairly significant platform deals. Check out me using corporate jargon. Platform deals with Netflix during the World Cup for The Rest is Football. The Rest is the World Cup. I watched about 5 minutes of it. It wasn't my cup of tea. And Stick to Football, which again is a show that I do occasionally watch, but again, it's not quite my cup of tea. It depends on who they've got on it. If they've got someone I think is particularly interesting on it, then I'll be happy to watch that. And they've just done a deal with Disney Plus. They've launched a new side project called Stick to United with Mark Goldbridge, of whom I have no opinion. And yes, it's Gary Neville and Mark Goldbridge, who will be doing this new show, Stick to United, and they'll be putting Stick to Football on Disney Plus in addition to their other platforms. They'll also be doing, I think it's 6 exclusive Disney Plus shows. Or that is to say, there's an exclusive rights window, and then after a while it goes over to YouTube. So it's a strange one, this, because I do podcasts bit for love, and in order to satisfy my prodigious ego and the belief that I have something to say and it's of some value and people will be entertained and informed by listening to it. But these guys do it for money. I mean, which is actually probably a much more honest and decent reason for doing it, rather than satisfying my own narcissism. But it's interesting that they've made this decision to go over to platforms, different platforms. Both of these platforms, of course, are subscription based. And it's interesting also that the platforms themselves, Netflix and Disney, think that they can get subscribers off of this, or do they think that they can keep subscribers, not so create sticky football, sticky content? So I suppose yes, rather than stick to football, it's sticky football and sticky content to make people stay. Like I guess feel that if they can make their paid subscription service to be, a one stop where they get all their content or as much of their content as possible, their podcasts and whatnot, and then that's what they'll do. Um, or is it part of a bigger play for those podcasts to then actually maybe get rights and start bringing in actual football? I know Stick to Football picked up the rights for the Friday Bundesliga game. I don't know if they're still doing that this season. I think Mark Goldbridge did some commentaries on some watch-alongs, I should say, to use the term that the kids use. So I don't know whether or not maybe that's the play, is to then partner up with these platforms with the view to maybe obtaining rights and then fleshing out the proposition so they actually show football as well as yakking about it, which will be interesting. I don't. I mean, I think that there's probably almost an inexhaustible requirement on fans to listen to people talking about football and to listen to their opinions on football, and the more credible those opinions are, the bigger business it becomes, and I think the more valuable it can become. To the extent that it's something that you can get genuinely rich on, I'm not altogether certain. I mean, Gary Lineker in particular has branched off and is doing different kinds of things. He's lending his name and his company to different topics, and they're all niche topics like history and politics and all that stuff. And I don't know how successful that is, but it is an interesting move for me to sort of go, well, we are not probably, truthfully, getting the kind of growth that we want from just doing podcasts and slinging them up on YouTube or slinging them up on Spotify, on slinging up an RSS feed for people to draw down into their podcatchers. And so they're having to adapt. And in turn, I think the platform providers, Disney and Netflix, are thinking, well, we need sticky football content to be able to retain subscribers, because it seems unlikely that you would subscribe to Disney Plus because a football podcast is on there that you can otherwise get on other platforms. So anyway, we shall see what happens in this brave new world of footballing content, and it's all terribly exciting and inevitably, involving Mark Goldbridge. The football season has kicked off, and I was thinking about maybe doing a little bit of a preview. We're probably going to preview the Premier League season on the Sound of Football podcast tomorrow. Charity Shield is about to start. Probably when this is premiering, it will probably be on, so you won't be watching it while it's premiering, because you should probably be watching Arsenal versus Manchester City in the Community Shield. That should be an interesting game, but Super Cups are essentially juiced up pre-season friendlies. They're great. Crystal Palace won one last year, and I think they're fantastic, and they're brilliant, massively credible. But we won't necessarily glean a great deal about the championship prospects of either of those sides. The championship, speaking of, kicked off yesterday, or Friday actually, I will try and catch up with that during the course of the season and see what's going on. But I'm about to watch. Well, I'm about to put the snooker on. But after I put the snooker on, I will also be putting on Watford versus Southampton, because I think that is a game full of narrative. I would suggest lots and lots of lovely narrative. But I won't talk about either of those games, because they would have been played by the time you're watching this, if indeed you are still watching this. But just very briefly, in terms of the Premier League, I think that Arsenal can do it again. It's difficult to retain the title, but I think with the number of managerial changes that have been happening, I think that the Premier League is going to be in a bit of flux. So the main contenders having managerial changes, I think Arsenal have recruited well. And as long as they recover from World Cup fatigue and also, I have the hunger and the commitment to go and do it all again, then in fact they could not only win, but they might actually win by an increased margin. Don't hold me to these opinions. Don't go to the bookmaker with these opinions. But I think I think that's a credible likelihood. Um, at some point during the course of the season, I'll talk about Bundesliga and I'll be talking about Crystal Palace inevitably, plus the old doings of football. So if you're new to this channel, thank you for watching it, and thank you for sticking through to the 10 minutes and 32 seconds that it's currently at. If you want to see more of this, just press the subscribe button. Please like this video, algorithm and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe one day I will be doing a deal with Disney Plus or Paramount Plus, and it'll be, I don't know, sticky football with Terry the Felon. Well, you see, that could work. It's my idea, mine. My idea, not yours, mine.